Alrighty, hopefully everyone is doing well. I want to go over some trades I took the past few weeks. Um, this week right here, let's see. Yeah, last week was NFP week, this Friday, right? If we go on to Forex calendar, this week right here was NFP week. I did not trade NFP week, but before that, I took a trade this week. So, at least with my last video, I'd went over the market outlook for this week, which was correct. If you look back at my video, I correctly described where the Nasdaq was going and the S&P and all that. I won't go look at those charts now, but I'm just saying I was correct in my bias. So I went over this week last time. So let me essentially go over my trade I took this week. The week, what is this? The 22nd? Yeah, week of the 22nd. I want to go over this trade. So this was a trade obviously I took on Euro USD. I trade Euro USD. The weekly range was pretty small, right? It was only about 68 pips, 69 pips. So the weekly range was honestly pretty awful. If we look, I took it on Thursday, so I took it through unemployment claims. I think if I look at my broker, I think I took it on this candle around here, around 8 o'clock. Um, and it went for way more than a 1-to-1, but that's what I had it for. It went for, this much. Obviously, 1 to 2.76, but I took it for a 1-to-1 personally. So what do we have here, right? So we have the Asian range, right? So the Asian range, in my opinion, is 1900 to midnight. What's the high and what's the low? So from 1900, this was the lowest point, to midnight, 0. This was the highest point at what? About 9 o'clock. This was the highest point here, right? Yep, by like one little pipette up here. This was the highest point. So essentially Asian, this is the Asian range, right? From the high and the low. Essentially, they act as support and resistance, right? Um, that acts as support and resistance, and where it opens at midnight here, didn't actually come quite up to midnight. But essentially, when you look at the daily range, right? Because originally, what I saw when I came to the chart was this. This is what I saw right here, right? So essentially, I got into an optimal trade entry right here between the 62 and the 79. Um, a good place to essentially get in, and I set my stop loss at the high of the day, right? Set my stop loss at the high of the day. And I pretty much said, if it goes past the high of the day, it is not a New York continuation. So um, it's a reversal. And I don't personally trade reversal days. I trade New York continuations. So essentially what I mean by that again is London kill zone, right? Is 2 to 5 a.m., right? 2 to 5 a.m. Essentially, that's where you'll see most of the volatility in London session. So basically, if from 2 to 5 is bearish, I'm looking for New York from 7 to 10 to be bearish, which it was overall, right? So I'm looking for, essentially, if you just want to be simple about it, I'm looking for a lower low, lower high, lower low. I'm looking to catch a lower high, get in, and then take it all the way down to a new lower low. So obviously, that's essentially what I did. You could have got in anywhere in this range between the 62 and the 79. There's also a fair value gap here, right? But I'm personally going to take it always. I'll take it 2 pips away from the 62. And you could probably even, you could have had a pretty tight stop loss here, honestly. Even off the Asian range here, this level, you can actually do a 10 pip stop loss generally and get an easy 1 to 2. And honestly, obviously, it went way more than that. Went for 1.1 to 3.59, but you could have easily got a 1 to 2. Easily, right? And I took it through unemployment claims. So I got in on this candle right here at 8 o'clock, like at 8:05, 8:05, something like that. Okay, I'll say between 7:30 and 8:15, something like that. I woke up and I had taken it, and then obviously by 10 it had dumped. And I'll even go on to 15 minute. Start new. Let's go right here. Go to the 15-minute. We have a few trades to go over, but this is the first trade I had taken this week. This is the only trade I took this week on 226 here. I actually really love trading through unemployment claims because essentially what happens is you can get in during certain news. Like I'm not going to get in during CPI, I'm not going to get in during PPI, and I'm not going to get in during NFP. But unemployment claims, I'll be in a trade through unemployment claims if there's manipulation before it. So what I mean by that again. So the day kind of started at midnight. It manipulated up to come down. And I expect it to come, like I said, in this range to then bounce back. Now 8:30 was this candle right here. So essentially, I'm looking at this whole move right here as the market is manipulating you to make you think the market's going up to eventually shoot back down. Right? So essentially, if you think it's bearish and you think this news is going to push it down, you want to see a move up before 8:30. I was looking to sell. I want to see a manipulation move to the upside before my sell. And this is a huge fair value gap here, right? Just saying as well. I mean, obviously there was another setup off of this one. You could have set up a trade, something like this, potentially, right? Potentially, you could have set up a trade right there, put it at this candle's high. I know it's getting kind of junky with the short tool here. But yeah, that's a trade I had taken. If you look at my YouTube shorts, I made $100 off this trade. On like the account was like $400 or something like that, but I only put in 200 because on a broker called Gates FX, which I'll go over in another video, essentially they kind of double the money you're working with. So I really put in $200 or $225, and I made $100 off that. So anyway, that's the trade I had taken on Thursday on 226 there, and I had won. I'll probably put up the winnings on the screen so I can show that I did win that trade. It is, again, in my YouTube shorts, but again, that's a trade I won. And let's go over here. And this was NFP week. I looked, when it comes to NFP week, I'll look for the first day or two, like Monday or Tuesday, to potentially get into a trade. But besides that, no, I don't really trade NFP week, especially I don't trade Friday. This is when the weekly range started to open up. I mean, the weekly range, coming from a week where it was like 68 pips, the weekly range here is about 265. So it's pretty crazy to see the weekly range jump that high. We're also going through turbulent times with what's going on in the world. That's all I'll say on that. And so I think that's also why the market is a little more volatile. So let's go on to this day, right? This week, rather. The week of, what was it? The week of 4-8, right? Not 4-8, 3-8. Okay, so I took a trade on Tuesday, right? Same setup. OT setup, essentially, again, I'm trading the New York continuation. 2 to 5 was bullish, so essentially I'm expecting it to continue bullish. So I'd gotten in actually on this candle right here. I woke up at 6 a.m. and I looked at it and I decided to get in. It actually came up on this candle right here at 7 a.m. and it just missed my TP by like a pip. Again, I'm only actually aiming for a 1-to-1 here. But essentially when I missed that, I actually went back to sleep. And I woke up around 9 or so. And I saw it. I saw that it came back down. I was kind of annoyed it didn't hit my TP. But at the same time, I figured in my head, I said, okay, I'm still strong in my conviction that it's going to go up. It's just going to start consolidating. But I believe through its consolidation, it's going to wind up hitting my TP and probably going towards this high right here, right? That's what I thought. And that's what it did. It eventually did at 1 o'clock go ahead and take out that high. And obviously I was out the trade by 11, right? Also, fair value gap here. Fair value gap here as well, right? Okay, so that's the trade I took on Tuesday. Monday was kind of a junky day. I kind of woke up, I kind of saw this price action, and I didn't trade it. There was a trade to be taken in here. If if I mess with off the Asian high, you kind of could have gotten in. This is the area of support, right? But yeah, I wasn't up at 4 or 5. I think on the 15 minute, I think I looked start new. I think we look on Monday here. If you look at the 15 minute. Yeah, it was just kind of junky on Monday. Let's see. Yeah, there was no news. It was just kind of junky. I didn't get in. I mean, you could have gotten in off the Asian level, but nah, Monday wasn't it. Monday was not it, in my opinion. And obviously, that's the trade I took on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday is a date I didn't trade. I actually didn't even look at the market really, but it actually had a great play. Um, it had manipulation up until 3 a.m., right? We go on the 15-minute chart here on Tuesday. The day opens at midnight. It makes you think it's going to go up. It gives you a big shoot up. Let's see, was there news in the morning around that time? No, there wasn't. But it gives you a big, huge move up. Let me make sure. Okay, this is wrong week, right? Yep. Okay. Because I knew Wednesday it had CPI, right? And I'm still a week short. Sorry. Because this was NFP week. Okay, yep. So there was no news this past Wednesday, rather, at 3:15, but it did spike up, taking out people up here. So it comes down, and it makes that low. Let me go back on the hour time frame. But if you look here from high to at a point, boop. Yeah, it never really came into a 618 or 79% area, but it did respect the Asian level here, right? From 1900 low to the midnight high, came up here, 1 to 2 right here. You could add a 10 pip stop loss. Because again, this low right here is 1.16047. If you look up here, 1.16047. I'll go ahead and label the line. 1.16047. Let me try to put that kind of in the middle here. Oh, let me do bottom left in this case, right? So let's say you got in at 1.16047, right? You got a 10 pip stop loss, I believe. Bam. Right? It would have been a little tight at the end because the high was 1.16125. And so you had two pips to spare. So it could have been tight. But if you were able to stay in, you would have got a 1 to 2. And if you were able to stay in, you would have been very happy for the rest of the week, right? I mean, insanely happy. Oh my goodness, insanely happy. Jesus Christ. Right? Alrighty, so close out of some of this. Alright. And this was 10 o'clock. So CPI happened around here at 8:30 on this Wednesday, March 11th. CPI happened here at 8:30. And this was the price action it gave you. So CPI wasn't, at least on this pair, as violent as you would think. It didn't really do much. But then we get a manipulation move up. And then obviously, like I said, it sold off the rest of the day. So you would have been holding your seat for a trade like this, to be honest with you. And on a broker, you might actually have gotten taken out. Like I said, I didn't get into this trade, but I do take trades off the Asian levels all the time. So let's go into a trade I actually did get into, which was this one. This is actually a loss I had taken for the day. Because this was unemployment claims, and it just shot down, right? Unemployment claims at 8:30. And in the hour of 8, it just shot down. I think this is obviously when I got in around 8, and it just shot down, right? Totally lost. And it was completely my fault. Why? Because I essentially knew that Tuesday was going to be the weekly high. and I kind of still took a buy. I thought this might still be a day to go to the upside, um, but it wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't. I lost, right? It happens. And then let's go on to Friday. So Friday I actually caught this trade. See, I set up my levels, the Asian levels. 9 o'clock was the high, and the low was over here. And it came into, the OTE range right here between the 62 and the 718, or 79% rather. And it bounced off, right? It gave you more, gave you about a 1.88 off that. Oop. So, I caught all these trades, like I said, besides this one. NFP I didn't trade, and I took this trade right here. I think this one, this is the trade I really wish I would have gotten this week. I wish I would have looked at the charts, but I was busy. I had things to do. If I could have gotten in this trade and held it throughout the week, I would have been a very happy man. But things like that happen. You miss trades. It happens. So that's all I really have for you guys. I encourage everyone to continue studying. Trading is a never-ending journey. You want to continuously study. And I guess one last thing is I just want to show the DXY for the trade on Friday. Essentially, this was Friday at 7 o'clock, and I will take a trade on Euro USD between 7 and 11 a.m. And essentially, this was a 4-hour candle. It came into this fair value gap. It took out this 4-hour low, and it was gone, right? At one point, if I look at the 1 hour, looked a little spooky for a second, because at the time it looked like it was about to shoot through the 15-minute, something like this. But as we see later, it shot back the other way. And I essentially knew it was going to keep going up for the week, because I had also checked on AU. It was looking pretty good for the same type of setup. A New York continuation of the London move. And then we look at GU. GU is looking pretty good for a continuation of the London move. Again, the London move is between 2 and 5 a.m. And so, yeah, they all moved in, they all moved in correlation. So that's also why I took the trade. Also see right here. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys. Have a great one.